What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to show you guys how you can make your own custom transitions within Adobe Premiere and After Effects. Not only that, but I'm going to provide you with some drag and drop presets to make the process easier. So in this, I'll show you how you can use those drag and drop presets, which are going to be free, and of course I'm going to show you how you can make your own. And that's the more important part. I want to show you how you can make a wide range of different transitions using this technique. If you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button for content like this, teaching you how to do stuff, providing you with those tools for your video creation needs. Leave a like if you enjoy the content to help the growth of the channel. It helps a huge amount. And as always, comment below what you'd like to see next. So let's go ahead and start from scratch. I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate this base clip and make sure there's nothing on it. I'll move it over here so everything is nice and organized for you guys. All right, so we have some footage that we'd like to transition into. Let's go ahead and start setting up our effect. And I'm gonna move this to the side for a second. Step number one, you're gonna want to grab your pen tool. So right here on your toolbar, you can also click P. And this is important because this is going to determine the animation of your transition. Do you want your transition to wipe across the screen? Do you want it to go up? Do you want it to go down? And the real thing I wanna get across while we're working through this is I want you to experiment and not just make what I'm making. I want you to make a bunch of things that are unique to yourself. So I'm just going to make an easy transition where it starts in the bottom right corner and wipes across to the right. So you have your little anchor points that you can control here. We'll start it small like this. So now that we have our base shape down in our starting position, we're going to go over to our left effect controls here. We're going to open up this shape layer, which is in our effect controls, and you see you have your fill. Keep that on white for now. And you're going to see your path here, and you can see this little stopwatch toggle animation. So make sure you're at the beginning of your clip. We're going to click this stopwatch to toggle the animation, and then we're going to drag for however long you want this animation to be. So if you want it to grow across the screen. Next, what we need to do is I want to see those anchor points on my shape layer again. So I'm going to click on shape here, and you're going to see it's going to show my anchors and fully control the animation however you'd like. So because we made those keyframes, you'll see that we have these markers in our effect controls over here. If I drag back, you'll see this is the animation that we created. If you want this to be faster, it's as simple as just taking your keyframe and dragging it back. And then the opposite, if you want it to be more slow, drag it out a little bit. At this point, I just want this to cover the entire screen. So you can also add anchor points just by clicking. Very simple. And there we go. So we now have this animation here where this drags across the screen. Next, let's go ahead and customize the shape of this animation. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to my effects and presets, and you can actually experiment a lot with this. You can try roughen edges. Maybe you could even try turbulent displace. If you experiment and you customize this, you're gonna get many different results throughout. I recommend you go with roughen edges, and we can crank up our border to something like 500. We can crank up our complexity to something like 10. I think I even like going with 7 for this. And you have this sort of pattern where it grows across the screen like this. And now a quick word from today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Wondershare PDF Element. I know that a lot of you are either students or freelance workers, which means you're working with digital documents a lot. PDF Element allows you to easily create, edit, convert PDFs in a matter of seconds. You can start with just one click, create PDF. I'm gonna open up this Word document so we can convert this into a PDF. And just like that, as you can see, we're now ready to start editing this. You can add your own images, and you have a wider range of tools at your disposal. Some of these tools include collecting signature, filling out forms, leaving comments, reviews, and even password protecting your documents. For those of you that are music video directors, this is also a great tool for creating your video treatments. As you can see, I've been going through this here. I could change around the background colors in a second. Say I wanted to add a spot for a signature for the client to sign off, as easy as that. If you guys are interested, they're doing a 50% off back to school sale right now. All links will be down at the top of the description. And now back to our tutorial. So let's take our graphic and place it over top of the footage that we'd like to transition or just have this animation over. And I'll show you how to make this go from one shot to a different shot. Before we start this transition here, I just want to move this aside just to put some little text on the screen to give you a good visual representation of what a LUMA mat is. So if I type out some random text here, and I'll go ahead and I'll just make it bigger. I'll scale it up, such as this. If you use this LUMA mat technique, you can have your footage showing within the text. So if I was to go and search in my effects and presets here, or if you're not in your color workspace, if you're in your editing workspace, it may be up here, search for the effect called track matte key. This is the exact same thing as the track matte within After Effects. You can place this on the footage underneath your text, And using your track matte key in your effect controls, you can select the matte as whatever video layer you'd like. So my text is in video layer 4. I'll set it to that, and there you go. Going to affect the channel that you'd like. So you can matte alpha, you can matte luma, and of course you can invert it just like this. So that's just a brief little explanation of what it can really do. If maybe you want this to be kind of highlighted, you can brighten it up, duplicate this, delete the track matte, maybe make it darker. And there you go. Now you sort of have the imprint of text. So you see how you can use this tool to create a wider range of different things. So let's apply the technique that I just showed you now that you have the basic understanding in a transition sense using this transition clip that we made. So now that we have this little animated shape clip that we created over top of our footage, again, search for your track matte key effect. Place that on your footage. Always place it on the bottom and not the top. Find where that effect is. And now we can do the same thing. We can select the matte, whatever video layer we're in. So video layer 3 is where our graphic is. And now you're going to see it's either going to affect alpha, it's going to affect luma. So essentially what we're doing is we're isolating the footage in the specific shape that we created. And because we're doing this, we can create some very interesting and unique transitions from this. So before we transition from this clip to another using this, let's just go ahead and hold down Alt and click and drag our footage down. So we've duplicated the exact same footage and just put it in a video layer below. So I'm going to go to the effect controls of this very bottom layer here, and I'm going to delete the track matte key so that this just goes back to normal. If we go to our color workspace here and we add a little bit of variation in our lumetri color, now you can see how it's kind of creating this double exposure effect. So you can use this to create some different patterns across your footage. If you want, again, you could use any preset effects on one of these two clips to show variation between the two from this little selected animation. So if I just look up a little invert preset, and this is from some of my effects packs which are on my website, they're linked below if you're interested. I can go ahead and grab one of these and place it on the bottom clip, and now you're going to see how it grows and you see the variation in this. So this is great for creating things like title sequences or just some sort of creative little transition where it splits the effect that you're doing. So that is one way to do it, to highlight a specific area. If you want to go from one clip to the next, let's go ahead and grab a section of this video that is different from what we're showing. I also am going to delete all of the effects off this so we don't have any invert. And now, as you can see, it's going to grow. This is how we can have this transition from one clip to the next, just by changing what clip is at the very bottom. Again, this is because we have our track matte key on matte alpha. You could also place it on matte luma. You can invert these. So there, again, just some examples of a basic transition using the animated path that we created just from base things that exist within Adobe Premiere. Well, this is going to show you glowing Luma matte transitions and a bunch of different variations. So the key to adding those variations, I think, comes from presets, plugins, and again, adding different things that can put a twist on this. You have all of Adobe Premiere's built-in effects. You have any presets that you can find. Again, there's some on my website. Any plugins that you may have invested in, such as Red Giant, Sapphire packs. I've made tons of videos covering a bunch of these effects that you can use. So for example, let's go ahead and just apply a glow onto our little transition here. So I'm going to look up glow, and I like to use glow edges from the Sapphire pack just to kind of add this variation into the animation. I also think that Red Giant Stardust works well with this. I also think that you can use the base After Effects glow, which I'll show you later when we do hop into After Effects. So if you look at the original examples that I was showing you, there's different paths that you can also make with this. So if you want to see the effects that I placed on here, I use a Red Giant Universe Ecto effect. This is something I've made tons of videos on because you can make a lot of different patterns. I also have that glow edges. And if you want something free that is very similar to Universe Ecto, you could use Saber from Video Copilot. That's 100% free. I'll leave a link to the download link for that, and I'll leave a link to the tutorial I made for that, where essentially you just drag and drop it, and it turns your mask path into this kind of glowing shape. Now, the way that I was able to kind of show the footage in the middle of this is by adding another little Luma matte. So if we were to go onto our graphic here, I'm going to alt drag my graphic up. I'm going to select them both. I'm going to right click and I'm going to nest them into one. So it should go back to normal. I'm going to pop into that nested clip. So just double click on this nested sequence here. You can hide video layer 4. And let's place another track matte key effect onto this bottom part of the graphic. Now here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the track matte. I'm going to change the matte to video layer 4. I'm going to put it on matte LUMA, and then I'm going to invert it. And if we go back to sequence 1, now that I've applied that, I can go back to my original track matte here, which is on my normal footage, and I can just invert it. Some of the variations that I was able to create is adding ecto and some of these glow edges just to kind of create this swirling, glowing pattern. So here's the effect controls for that if you're interested. Ecto, glow edges. This is set to video 3 matte alpha inverted. This is just normal nested. And in here, duplicated with our track matte again on matte LUMA. All right, guys, so now that I've shown you everything that you can do with the techniques that you need for this, now let's go in and I'm going to show you the presets that I've created for you, how you can work them, how you can apply what I just showed you to the presets to easily add those transitions into your own footage. All right, guys, so I use all the techniques that I showed you within Adobe Premiere to create these little preset drag and drop clips for you guys to use. So let me show you how to actually set this up. It's pretty easy. So you drag this in. Here's what the clip looks like. As you can see, it's just a green to blue screen, and using the transition techniques that we've been talking about, and I'm going to go more in depth with this in the After Effects section after I show you this. But either way, to set this up, it's very, very easy. You just go to your effects. You search up a little ultra key effect, or if you're using this not in Adobe Premiere, you can use this for any editing software. It may be called a color key, some sort of key effect. Place that on your glowing transition here. Go to your effect controls, find the ultra key, and just key out the green. There you go, just as you can see, just like that. So we now have the pattern going across our screen, but we have this giant ugly blue marker here. It's very easy to do this. Select the first 2 clips, right click, nest them together, and now just repeat the step you used to get rid of the green. Apply your ultra key or your color key effect, grab your dropper, take out the blue. And it's as simple as that. As you can see, transitions from one to the next. Now, if there is a lot of deep blue in the scene that you're transitioning from, like for example, here's what this looked like. As you can see, tons of blue, probably not the best shot to use for this, is you can go into your settings here and you can try and change these settings, get everything the way that you want it. Maybe there's not enough glow for you. You can drop glow in, you can pop in the nested, you can add anything that you want. You have a lot of options while you're going through it. So that's how you can use the presets. Link to that will be down in the description. It's gonna be free on my website. I also wanna say, because it is free, whenever you're checking out, it asks for a bunch of info. If you'd like, you can just put complete gibberish in there. Since it's free, leave the payment part blank, click order. But again, just leave the payment part blank, click purchase. You won't be charged, and you can download that 100% for free. So we showed you the techniques in Adobe Premiere for your videos. We showed you how to use the presets, which I'm providing for you for free, which are in the description. Now let me show you how you can fully make your own in a more advanced fashion using Adobe After Effects. I'm gonna go ahead and create a new composition here, LUMA matte transition. So click OK. And let's even create a new folder here just so we can keep everything organized because we're getting a little bit cluttered. So, all right. So within this folder, we have our LUMA matte transition. Let's go ahead and start crafting this. We're going to right click down here, go to new and go to solid. And we're going to create a black solid. So I'm going to click make comp size and click OK. So this is going to be our main background. Now I'm going to right click again and create another solid. This time I'm going to make an all white solid. And you can just name it ink. You can name it fractal if you want, anything that kind of gets the point across. And we're going to make this composition a little bit bigger than our normal one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lock the aspect ratio and I'm just going to pull this up because I want this to be kind of twice the size of our normal comp so that whenever we do have the transition kind of growing across, we're not going to run into any issues with the edges. And then what you want to do is you want to go over to your masking tools. I'm going to alt click up here until I have my ellipse tool, and I'm going to just choose where I want this transition to start. So I'm going to just start in the bottom right corner and just make a little circle. Now what you do next is you're going to want to animate the mask. So I'm going to open up this mask path here, keyframe it. And I think this is going to be like a 3-second transition. So let's kind of just start gradually making this grow across the screen. So I'm going to hold down Control and make sure you're selecting the layer and not the mask. Hold down Control so we can start moving these anchor points. And as you see with the keyframes, here's what we got. So 1 second, it'll grow like that. So that should be fine for now. So we have a basic little shape here. So let's go back into our main comp. And I'm actually going to start fresh. Grab our galaxy environment. Let's grab our tunnel environment. I'm going to Control C to copy that. And let's go ahead and just make a new composition in our folder here, main comp, just so we don't run into any issues. So in our main comp, we're going to Control V to paste that. And we're going to place tunnel or whatever you want to transition from to at the top. So I'm going to go transition from my tunnel environment to my galaxy environment. So next up, what I want to do here, we can take our Luma matte transition comp and just place this into our main comp. We can even switch our blending mode to add, just so you can see the animation growth. So keep in mind what it's going to really look like as we go along. Once you're fine with the animation and the timing of everything, we're going to go to our effects and presets and search for roughen edges. And we're going to place that onto our little white solid here. Now let's go ahead and just grab our border and just crank that up. And if you guys want, you can put that all the way to the maximum value. So 500. I'm also going to put our complexity up to 10 so that we can start really getting this kind of ink blot fractal noise going on here. And if we press play, here's what that's looking like. You can also go to your mask options in the bottom left, and your mask opacity here is going to control the switch. So if you don't want this to abruptly just pop in, we can start this at 0 at our starting position, keyframe it, move a few seconds over, and just gradually bump that up. So let's maybe keep that at like 70% opacity here. And here's what that looks like. It kind of just grows in. This is what this is going to start to look like. As you can see, here's going to be the pattern of our growth. All right, so we're going to go ahead and just add some edges onto this transition. And if you don't know what I mean, this is what we're going to do here. So I'm going to right click on Luma Matte Transition. I'm going to pre-compose it again. And I'm going to name it Luma Matte Transition Main and click OK. Now we're going to double click into that pre-comp we just made. And I'm going to Control D to duplicate the Luma Matte transition. So I just made a duplication on top. Now I'm going to click Track Matte down here, and I'm going to Luma Matte invert this bottom part. And if you turn off your toggle transparency grid, you'll see we've now isolated just the edges, the outside of this, which is going to really help for when we create our glow. Let's go back to our main comp here. Here's what that's starting to look like. Okay, at this point, we're gonna go and just start adding some effects onto our little animation that we've created here. So what you can do, you can add a glow effect onto here. And this is what really sells the effect. You can use the After Effects base glow, as you see here. If you really wanna get the most out of this transition, I recommend that you invest in some sort of external plugin to give you some more options for the glow. So here's using the base glow, which is pretty nice. I mean, once we apply the alpha transition and everything, it'll look okay. What I like is either if you have Red Giant Trap Coat, Star Glow is a really good plugin for this. If you have the Sapphire, if you have any Sapphire plugins, Glow Edges is one that I like a lot as well. As you see, it kind of adds a little bit more thickness onto here. I can lower the glow width a bit. I can lower my brightness a bit, and then I can change my color just like this. So in my opinion, Glow Edges is my favorite for this, but you don't need to have the external plugin. You could always just use the built-in After Effects glow. So here's with Glow Edges added in. Now the next thing you want to do is add a little bit of a blur onto this. So I'm just going to look up a fast box blur, and I'm going to put the blur radius at 0.5. And you guys can also look up a little levels effect, and you can adjust the brightness of this. Now all you need to do is go to your tunnel environment layer, whatever layer you're trying to transition. You see your little track matte drop down. You can just set that to alpha matte. It's going to show what's behind this layer in the shape of our little ink transition. So if I was to hide my galaxy, here's the transparency and how you could really see it affect our full tunnel. Now that's one way you could go about this, but that doesn't really look like it's happening in 3D space. So what I recommend that you do is you actually put this back on normal. You grab your Luma Matte transition main. I'm going to Control C or Control X just to copy it. And I'm going to pop into my actual tunnel environment composition that we made earlier. So here is where we used Element 3D to make the 3D tunnel. So we have our 3D tunnel, which we made earlier with Element 3D. We have our Luma Matte transition, which is this kind of wiping effect that we have going on here. And now what you can do the same exact thing we did earlier. We're just placing it in the main comp. So it's going to react a little bit better. So under Track Matte, Alpha Matte, and now as you can see, it's really only wiping away just the shape of the tunnel. Make sure after the alpha matte that you just show this so you can see the full glow on the edges of everything. So as you guys can see, completely wipes away, and it's wiping away in the shape of the tunnel. Now there's an alternate way that you can do this. Because we use Element 3D, and before when I was showing you those custom layer maps and we were able to make it in the shape of the tunnel, using those custom maps from earlier, we can do the same thing for our little wipe transition, have it in the shape of the tunnel and give us some different shapes. So if you don't want it to wipe in this specific manner, what you could always do, you select your 3D tunnel that we made before, you go to your custom layers and make sure you're in the custom texture maps and not the text and masks. You need to be in the texture maps for this to work. Now you just select the name of whatever layer has that transition we made. So mine was transition pre-render, and we set it to source. And now you see we have a completely different animation going on here. So you have a few options for being able to create this. So I mentioned I wanted to make a fire burn, not this specific shape. It's literally the exact same thing, but if you want to have the fire burn, let me go to my effect controls. If I wanted to, I could probably change the color of the glow edges, kind of make it like this warm color like this. And that's sort of like this yellow electricity. Or I could completely turn off glow edges and glow. And what I could do instead is I could apply either Saber, which is a free plugin, which I mentioned earlier, or Universe Ecto, which is a paid plugin, but it's pretty similar to Saber. Now with Saber, I could just put on something like a little warm. I could put on one of these different presets here. I could customize it. Say I want it kind of like fire. Changing the blending mode is definitely going to be a big factor into this because it's going to be blending with the green that's below it. I also duplicated this because I wanted a little bit more red showing here. Just a few little steps to change that around. If I wanted to, I could go back, make the animation a different pattern if I wanted to, but that just goes to show the power of this technique and really being able to make any transition you want, whether it's some Luma glow, whether it's this paper burn, or any other thing that your imagination can come up with. Hopefully you guys do enjoy. So anyways, guys, I hope you did learn something from this. I hope that these assets help. As you can see, I'm trying to place a lot of detail into them and give you guys some stuff that can help you. Want to see more variation in these? I could definitely make a paid pack of some different burns, some high quality paper burns, some high quality transitions for you guys to use, give you guys some more variety. So if you want to see that, that could be coming in the future. Just let me know in the comments down below. As always, guys, thank you so much for the support. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.